We had rushed into getting married right after high school and she had never gotten the chance to explore intimately and meet other options. She said she knew she'd resent me if she went back to her normal boring life after this and decided she wanted a divorce to life, the life she never got to during our marriage. To say I was blindsided would be an understatement. The woman who had been my whole life since I was 16 had cheated on me and decided she didn't want our marriage anymore. I asked her what about our home, our daughter, what were we going to tell our family, what about our life? She only said she still loved me but needed to follow her heart and stay here. She would let me keep the house and she knew it would be selfish to take our daughter away from that, so she was willing to give me full custody and she would pay child support as well as fly our daughter out to see her whenever she wanted. The divorce was finalized a year later. She was already living in Hawaii that whole time with a sea of lovers. She would visit her family and Kendall each time she was home with a new younger guy when she had to come back for court. Every time I expressed an issue with her bringing random men around my daughter the few times she would see her, she would say I was threatening her and get her new guy to defend her, also known as them trying to threaten me and act macho or whatever, so I just disengaged. The hardest part of the divorce was seeing my daughter be devastated that her mom was no longer around. Not only was I heartbroken and hurt myself, but I was heartbroken for my daughter. No child deserves to sob and cry all night because their mom is not around. All I heard for months was my daughter sobbing at night, crying for her mommy. 2 years later, I met my now wife Vanessa. I had ended up moving to the city to be closer to my family, and because the town and house brought back memories of the life I thought I had, I transferred to the city's branch of my company. And there she was. She was basically the opposite of my ex. Tall, black hair. She honestly had, and still has, a bit of a goth look, but she was beautiful and sweet. Cass was a short Latina albeit also beautiful woman who had the whole BTCH with a heart of gold thing going on in when we met and never really changed. Honestly, Vanessa kind of intimidated me when we first met, and I still had trust issues from Cass's betrayal, so we started off as friends. We got along fantastic, and things just fell into place. She had also been cheated on and left by her ex for another woman, and he had essentially abandoned my now stepson Nick when he was a baby. We both had trust issues, so we took it slow, then found love with each other. After 3 years, I asked her to marry me. My family loves her and even admitted they love her more than they ever did. Cass has been a fantastic stepmom to Kendall and I officially adopted Nick a year ago, and as of 6 months ago, we are expecting another baby girl. Everyone is ecstatic. The kids even surprised us by decorating the baby's room for us. They even paid for it themselves using their saved paychecks. The only thing preventing Vanessa from adopting Kendall was Cass guilt tripping her into not asking. And even though Cass has essentially been a deadbeat for the past few years and hasn't even invited Kendall out to visit her for 5 years, it would be breaking her heart to let another woman replace her. Speaking of Cass, neither her or her family has bothered to even reach out for the past few years. Her parents haven't done anything besides send an Old Navy gift card at Christmas and birthdays for years. The only time they messaged her over the past 10 years was to shame her for not having a quince. My daughter never felt in touch with her Spanish roots due to her family never being around to teach it to her. So despite me and Vanessa offering to host one, she refused because she didn't feel it was important. Cass's parents messaged her, calling her a sick little traitor to her culture and that she doesn't deserve her mom or their family if she could turn her back to her own kind. Once again they caused my baby to spend her whole birthday night crying. Recently I got a call from an unknown number, and it was Cass. She called to tell me she was at the house and the new owners told her I had moved years ago, so after years she called me to ask why I sold our home. I asked her how she even got my number and why she felt it was her place to be upset I sold a house she hadn't had anything to do with for years. She said it wasn't important and that she needed to meet me privately to talk. I told her I wasn't interested, and she had my number now, so anything she had to talk about she could text me, and ended the call. In her text, she explained that she had moved back to her hometown with her son. I guess she got knocked up by one of her hookups at some point. She had been dumped by her last boyfriend a year ago and was no longer able to find dates and realized she was no longer happy in Hawaii. She was working a miserable job at the resort where we ended our marriage and realized her time was up, and she needed to settle down. She said she had never forgotten our love and always knew I was the one at the end of the day, that if I would have her she would move in tomorrow or a month or even 16 years if that was what it took. She wanted our life and family back and to add her son to that family, and she would love to meet at a restaurant with our daughter or alone, and it was up to me. She even called me by a nickname she used to call me during our relationship, a nickname I used to love but now made me want to gag. I shut that down and told her I was happily married and expecting a new baby who would never get back together with her, and if my daughter wanted to rebuild their relationship, that would be her decision. I would have no part in it. Ever since, she has been spam texting me, Vanessa, and Kendall. She keeps telling Vanessa that she can have me back in a day, that I was her first and one and only true love, and it's a joke to think that I wouldn't take her back if we met face to face, and her and her kids should just move out before they get hurt and clean way for ops true family to take our rightful place in our new home. She's texting my daughter all the things she's planning for our new family home, to ask if the hussy and her kid are gone yet, sending her money and sending her pictures of all the clothes she's bought her for along with. These are a lot better than the shine the hissy buys you, right? And this is way more than the hussy normally gives you for your allowance, right? She sends me similar messages. We laughed at the messages and then blocked her number, and she'll make new ones over and over again. I thankfully haven't gotten anything from her family, but I know she's staying with them, so I have my guard up. I can tell this is starting to get to my wife and daughter. Kendall has expressed that she's seen Vanessa crying a lot, which is worrying as she's a high-risk pregnancy due to an autoimmune condition, and that she is nervous walking home from work as her mom keeps offering to pick her up often an hour or two before her shift ends despite her not telling her work schedule. She's worried she's been stalking her. We are all stressed to the max.